So I heard something happened with the Senate health care bill. Like, just a massive explosion. It has been destroyed. It was already on the edge, right? They only had 50 votes because Rand Paul and Susan Collins had already kind of opted out. And now, who else joined them? Mike Lee from Utah and Jerry Moran of Kansas. This is kind of interesting because Rand Paul, I'm not in favor of this kind of what can I call it, parading your principles around as if your principles mattered if no one was going to vote for you. This is Rand Paul before this happened, talking about why he wouldn't vote for this thing.
The real problem we have is, we won 4 elections on repealing Obamacare, but this bill keeps most of the Obamacare taxes, keeps most of the regulations, keeps most of the subsidies, and creates something that Republicans have never been for, and that's a giant insurance bailout super fund. That's not a Republican idea to give taxpayer money to a private industry that already makes $15 billion in profit.
So if this bill does not pass, what happens?
Well, what I've suggested to the president, and I talked to the president again, when he was in Paris just this last weekend, or I guess on Friday. And I've told him, I think we can still, if this comes to an impasse, I think if the president jumps into the fray and says, look, guys, you promised to repeal it. Let's just repeal what we can agree to. And then we can continue to try to fix, replace, or whatever happen afterwards. But the one thing we should do is try to repeal as many of the taxes, as many of the regulations, and as many of the mandates as we possibly can. I still think the entire 52 of us could get together on a more narrow, clean repeal. And I think it still can be done.
Okay, so that's Rand Paul, and everybody goes, oh, more principle. This is great. He's got principle. He's a guy stands up for repeal. They said they were going to repeal. They said it for 7 years. Why didn't they do it? Come on, let's go and do it. So that's Rand Paul talking about repeal. And Mike Lee, the thing about Mike Lee is Mike Lee usually is a team player. Mike Lee usually will go along. He was working with Ted Cruz to craft an amendment he thought would save this, but he put out a statement after conferring with trusted experts regarding the latest version of the Consumer Freedom Amendment. I have decided I cannot support the current version of the Better Care Reconciliation Act. In addition to not repealing all of the Obamacare taxes, it doesn't go far enough in lowering premiums for middle-class families, nor does it create enough free space from the most costly Obamacare regulations. So now, Mitch McConnell, who at this point must be ready to eat some of these people for dinner, Mitch McConnell says, all right, we'll have a vote on repeal. So what happens? And the president is also, Trump is tweeting out about 3 different things at once. He says, yes, we should repeal it. What did he say? Republicans should just repeal failing Obamacare now and work on a new health care plan that will start from a clean state. Dems will join in. As if, where that came from, I don't know. But then he also tweeted, we should just let it fail, which is what he's kind of been saying from the beginning. That was his political instinct from the beginning. Okay, so now moderate Rob Portman from Ohio. Do we have this cut? Did we get the Rob Portman? Great. Let's put on what he says about full repeal.
So I'll have to look and see what the so-called repeal bill entails. But if it is a bill that simply repeals, I believe that will add to more uncertainty and the potential for Ohioans to pay even higher premiums, higher deductibles. So we'll have to see. Obviously, we would look for a CBO analysis of that to see what it involves in terms of not just premiums and deductibles, but coverage. So, I'll take a look at it. But
Senator,
I'm concerned about something that would simply repeal and its impact on costs and choices in healthcare.
Ruh-roh, suddenly now remember, these guys, 48 of the sitting senators, I believe this is the right number, 48, voted for repeal like 2 years ago. So who is this good for? It's great for talk radio. It's great for right-wing talk radio because right-wing talk radio sells outrage because outrage is like cocaine and they know you're addicted to it and it feels so good to be outraged. They lied. I have to break this to you. Remember when your mom told you that a fat man comes down your chimney on Christmas? She was lying too. When politicians do this stuff. And by the way, it's not the politician you're yelling at. It's the voter. It's the voter. That's why he won't do it. That's why they won't repeal it. They won't repeal it because their voters will throw them out of office. They're trying to save their jobs. Now, you say that, you sit there and you say, well, they said this and the principle and we want freedom and they said that and they lied and all this stuff. My question is this: where is the so-called realism that right-wingers are always bragging about, right? I hear people saying, well, if this were Ted Cruz, It's not Ted Cruz. If we didn't vote for Donald Trump, we did. If Donald Trump weren't president, he is. So the reason this gets to me is I get this letter every single day, because what I said and what I still say is they should have given Trump the win. They should have given. That's all Trump cares about. Is this Trump's fault? In a sense, yes, of course it is, because Trump doesn't care about policy. He doesn't care about ideology. He told you this when he was running. He cares about the win. He wants the win, and then he'll move on, and he wants the economy to take off, and he wants you to like him for fixing things which he feels that he's good at doing. He said this was going to be easy. He didn't realize it's not so easy. And when you don't have the thing about Obama was a visionary. He had a vision of a weak America buried under socialist regulations where the elites told you what to do and you did them. That was his vision. Crap vision? Yeah, but it was a vision. He was willing to sacrifice the majority in Congress to get his vision through. He was willing to do dirty deals. He was willing to, do anything just to get that legislation through, because he knew once you give people stuff, they won't give it back. Once you give people, we were talking about this yesterday, people will sell their freedom for free stuff. This is not new. This is the law of human nature, okay? Remember your Bible, right? God brought plagues down on Egypt, massive, miraculous, incredible plagues that had never been seen before until Pharaoh let the people go. They ran out and the army came after them. They hit the Red Sea, and Moses parted the water of the sea moved apart. They went through the sea on dry land. The armies followed, and the armies were destroyed. And then they said, we're starving, we're hungry, we want to go back to Egypt. When we were slaves, we had food. That's what people do. They will give you their freedom for food, and they don't even think like, well, you did all these miracles. You don't even think like, American freedom made us the richest, most powerful, freest, best country on earth. Maybe we should just stick to that. It's like, we're going through an economic slump. We want free stuff. That's what people will do, and that's who these senators have and congressmen have to go back and face. So they're going to be cynical. They're going to be calculating. They're going to do what they think will get them reelected every single time. And if you're going to be outraged about that, if you're going to live in your outrage, well, that'll feel good, but you won't get anything done. I just want to know where the realism is. I am a rock-ribbed conservative. I think this health care bill should be thrown out, burned. I think the people who passed it should be tarred and feathered. I think we should have a free market health care. I think it would work. I think there should be some provision for the poor. I think there always has been provision for the poor in America, but I think there should be provision for the poor, but I think normal people should have to pay in a free market for their health care. Not going to happen. Not now. Not now. If they had passed something, they could have then engineered a new free market that would have sucked the energy away from the Obamacare structure. But it ain't going to happen now. I mean, and this is why the left is gloating. Here is Chuck Schumer standing on top of the Obamacare bill and exulting. Okay, that didn't work out as well as he thought. But look at, if we want to really go to the spokesman of the Democrat Party, let's go to Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe, because it's really the media that runs the Democrat Party now. Let's look at him gloating over this.
The greatest risk to Donald Trump, the greatest risk to the Republican majority, may not be the Russian scandals. It may not be the indiscriminate tweeting. It may not be the unpresidential behavior. It may not be the questioning of checks and balances. It may not be actually throwing aside every sacred tradition in the United States government over the past 240 years. It may be the inability to get things done, because Donald Trump's chief promise, above everything else, was, I can make Washington work. It's broken, but don't worry, I'm a deal maker. This is easy. We're going to do so much, and we're going to win so much that you're going to get tired of winning. And what he's actually finding is, as somebody said earlier this morning, that it's easier to stamp your name on buildings, on stakes, and on online university courses than it is to actually run Washington, D.C. and get significant legislation passed. And this was quite the failure, Mika.
And Mika is smirking so much that her facelift started to bleed again. Okay, don't laugh at that. You just encourage me when I say things like that.